Bon appetit.
All right, welcome. It's time for us to look at current affairs issues making the rounds across the globe and especially Nigeria as we look at national issues that is threatening to overboard and go. Well, begin our talking point from the global scene where it's NATO in the news this evening following threats by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan against Israel. Israeli foreign minister talking about Israel Katz has called for Turkey to be expelled from NATO due to Erdogan's comment where Mr. Katz said, adding that Turkey hosts Hamas. Mr. Katz called on all NATO member states to expel Turkey immediately. He said Turkey had massively violated NATO principles by threatening to invade a democratic Western country without provocation. The United States and the Western world must condemn Erdogan and stop his destructive activities. This was what was said. And on Sunday, let's just let you know that Erdogan threatened Israel with military intervention, citing previous actions in Nagorno-Karabakh and Libya. Erdogan was referring to the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict where he supported Azerbaijan with drones and other military aid. Ankara is also backing the internationally recognized government of Libya with military equipment and personnel. So that has led to that discourse. We'll also be looking at the U.S. where U.S. presidential hopeful Kamala Harris launched a searching attack on Donald Trump, telling her biggest campaign rally yet that the momentum was shifting in the White House race and daring the Republican to debate her face to face. So we'll be looking at what that means, especially for the Vice President Harris' trip to Atlanta, Georgia, comes as a re-energized Democrat regard the swing state as being a play again after it looked beyond hope under President Joe Biden. We'll also be looking at issues coming down home to the loss of a music legend in the passing of Onyeka Onwenu as a former Minister of Education, Mrs. Obiageli Ezekwesili, has expressed her sorrow over the passing of the music legend Onyeka, describing it as shocking and extremely tragic. So we'll be looking at what that means. Also, we'll be taking a little from the world of sport, where Nigerian athlete Favour Ofili has expressed her disappointment and frustrations after being omitted from the 100 meters women's event at the ongoing Paris 2024 Olympic Games. This is unpardonable exclusion has been attributed to the negligence of both the Athletic Federation of Nigeria and the Nigerian Olympic Committee. We're looking at how bad sports administration is in the country. All right, that and other issues are making the rounds, especially the protests as we head towards August 1st. We'll be making our talking point as Austin Peacemaker in Naide, a security expert, and a lecturer at the Nigerian Army School of Public Relations and Information, Abuja, has called Nigerian youths to be cautious with regards to the planned protest. All right, I've been having two guests on the show. The first of them is already here. He is Farouk Aka Olisa is his name. He is the CEO of Culture for Peace Foundation right here in the Federal Capital Territory. Thank you, Farouk, for making it to the studios.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Anthony. Thank you.
All right, we've got litany of a lot of talking points to discuss, but as we tradition here, we start from the global scene to go with our name. Let's look at what's playing out between Israel and Turkey, where Tayyip Erdogan, the president of Turkey, is threatening Israel with a military intervention. Do you think Turkey is going the right path, or is just trying to inflame an already tense Middle East, just when it looked like the U.S. and the Western allies were already suing for peace in Hamas?
Okay, well, let me start by saying that the issues around the Middle East crisis involving the Palestine and also the crisis going on in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, when we begin to wonder what the global leaders and the global organizations, including the United Nations, have actually done to stem the tide, because all these threats and pressures are piling up as a result of all this ongoing crisis in so many countries in the Middle East. So the recent threat of Erdogan trying to invade Israel is not unexpected, because there has been a lot of speculations, because there is this kind of geopolitical body language that we've seen over time, that the people that you are expecting to speak up, including United themselves and all the whole alliances, the geopolitics right now, we are seeing it is more and more complex than ever imagined. So if Erdogan, the president of Turkey, is now having this kind of idea of trying to invade militarily in Israel, it's not as if we do not expect it, but the question is, what are the powers that be is trying to do about to mitigate the possible consequences of this kind of invasion?
Okay, let's look at the fact that Israel is already pushing for Turkey to be kicked out of NATO. Do you see that happening? Do you think Turkey will care less if they're kicked out of NATO, the implications?
The truth of the matter is that Turkey has actually demonstrated a lot of support for Palestine and the people of Palestine ever since the Israel attack on Palestine, and they seem the world is keeping silence, and so it continues to escalate the tension. So on that basis, first of all, one would imagine that NATO will quickly accede to that request, made by Israel. But if it happens to come to, at that point, I don't think somebody like Erdogan will have any regrets, provided the fact that he believes he's fighting a moral and a justified cause to protect the people of Palestine.
All right, let's move to the U.S. where Kamala Harris is squaring up for the big battle with Donald Trump. She has come out to say, challenging Trump to a face-to-face debate. We know that when she was the Attorney General, she did put lots of persons behind those who were involved in fraud and other criminal activities, and she had one or two, dealings as regards Trump, and had some debt on Trump. Do you think that's what is making Trump unusually quiet? And do you think he will be bold enough to want to face Kamala Harris in a face-to-face debate?
Well, what has turned out in the U.S. politics in recent time also demonstrates the stage in which the global politics is currently operating. U.S. being at the forefront of global democracy, so to speak. A lot of attention and focus is being given to that country, and what we see happen in the U.S. ongoing presidential race involving at first involving Joe Biden and the Democrat
the Republican
candidate Donald Trump. Of course, we witnessed the shooting at the rallies where attempted assassination at eliminating Donald Trump happened, and so all these tensions, and of course, looking at the fact that Joe Biden himself actually stepped down in that race, means that they have reached some level of maturity in their politics in a way that actually project the right candidate they feel, regardless of your interest and affiliations. All right. So now that the Kamala Harris have taken up this race, as backed up by the party, as part of the party, I think they have also raised almost $200 million in support of that. So ever since that issues came up, you can find out there's a lot of support for her. All the places she have gone for rallies and campaigns, there's this turnout of supporters.
Okay. So do you agree with her that the momentum is shifting in the race to the White House towards the Democrats? And do you see Donald Trump being able to survive this onslaught?
Yeah, Donald Trump stands a very tiny chance if he is not able to coordinate himself well, because what we have seen in recent times in the kind of support that Kamala Harris and his courage in terms of going to this race and winning the battle, you will find out that just like he claimed, she mentioned that she's a legislator and she has been in the system.
Former Attorney General.
As former Attorney General. So she believes she has some edge, she has some information that the world don't even know about Trump. So that is kind of, a bit, scary. And don't forget that Trump was also accused for a lot of,
and has been convicted recently. So we're waiting for the ruling.
So Trump, at first, he has a lot of momentum against Biden because of perhaps the age and all the constructs around Joe Biden administration. But in recent times, Kamala Harris is coming out to transform these narratives against the Republicans.
All right, we'll see how that is going to pan out. But let's see if in the coming days and weeks and months, if Trump will be willing to do the face-to-face debate with Harris, as she has already laid down the gauntlet for it to play out. All right, let's get into the next talking point, where Nigeria, the former Minister of Education, Mrs. Obiageli Ezekwesili, has expressed sorrow over the passing of a music legend, Onyeka Onwenu, describing it as shocking. A lot of people will say it's shocking because we thought she was healthy, and we know she was in a performance on the birthday of one of dignitaries where she collapsed. Some say she didn't know the time to call it quits. Would you base it on that, or it was just simply nature calling her?
Well, I think issue of death has become inevitable, especially when the time is right for a person. All right, so she died at the age of 72 on a live performance, on a stage performing live, and I think perhaps that is that time. So there's no need to attribute other things surrounding her death, because even in recent times we have seen people died shockingly in that manner that you begin to wonder, what really happened. Just look at recently we have heard in the news the death of the senator representing Anambra State, who died in London, and when we imagine she's just maybe above 50, 55 or something, maybe up to 60, and he passed on like that. So it is an issue of death is around, but we send our sympathy to the families and the loved ones, and we wish her eternal repose.
Let's look at her legacy. How best do you think Nigerians will remember her? We know she had a lot of great songs, but one comes to mind is One Love, Keep Us Together. How key is that message at this time where Nigerians, the tension is high?
Onyeka Onwenu is somebody that the young people, especially the youngsters who are looking into creating real music, I can actually look up to, because if you see her the kind of performance, she's more like a creator. She's not just a writer of a song, she's also a producer, a songwriter, a journalist and advocate. She's like somebody who wants to be emulated. So, and you can agree with me that during that time, the kind of music, the music of symbolism, a music that has a legacy, music that filled with legacy, music that filled with lessons. So on that part, we feel that she can always be forever remembered for her contribution to the development of the music industry, and of course to the development of artistry.
All right, as we move on to the next talking point, let's go a little bit of sporty, where it's Paris 2024, and as our talking point, where Nigerian athlete Favour Ofili has expressed her disappointment and frustration after being omitted from the 100 meters of women's event at the ongoing Paris 2024 Olympic Games. This unpardonable exclusion has been attributed to the negligence of both the Athletic Federation of Nigeria and the Nigerian Olympic Committee. Let's look at this. We're talking about administrative negligence. Not that the athlete wasn't good enough, just the fact that they didn't dot the I's, cross the T's, put her name forward as an athlete that is supposed to take part in that event for Nigeria. Shouldn't somebody be losing their jobs? Is this panel? We're talking about Olympics that's been here for 4 years. We're talking about an athlete that had come for trials. You know your athletes that are going to the Olympics, and yet you fail to file in her name for that event.
Yeah, I think at this point we should be looking at institutional management, not just in sports, across sectors. But because now we are dealing with the issue of sports that is getting involved, Ms. Ofili, the athlete, I think more caution and more advice should be sought, from the management of Nigerian sports, because you cannot continue allow this kind of missed opportunities, because this athlete has actually won a lot of awards.
has also demonstrated her capability to putting the country in the limelight as long as this meter race is concerned. So if at this point we're having this kind of issue where the people who are in charge of administration of Nigerian sports authorities to look into this very well and to see what is really the problem, because actually from what she said, this is not the first time that this thing happens. So I think the management need to look into this critically to be able to not allow this kind of thing happen again.
All right, we hope the right thing will be done, and we're calling on the Sports Minister, John Enoch, to do the needful and ensure that someone gets not just fired, but if possible, get to pay this price for such laxity on the part of the Nigerian Olympic Committee and also the Athletics Federation of Nigeria. Someone has to, be sanctioned so that this does not repeat itself again. Very disappointing and mind-boggling that such mistakes can happen in this century. All right, let's look at the most talked about issue in Africa's biggest black nation, Nigeria, where first of all, we've got Austin Peacemaker Naide, a security expert and lecturer at the Nigerian Army School of Public Relations and Information. Abuja has called on Nigerian youth to be cautious with regards of the planned national strike. He warned youths that at the nation's crossroads of history, they must remember that the path of protest is potential for violence and anarchy and is a road to nowhere, a path that leads to destruction, chaos, and devastation, as witnessed in Libya, a nation that was once a beacon of hope. That's what Austin Peacemaker Naide is saying to the youth. Do you agree with him?
Yeah, in recent times, we have seen the outcome of the Nigerian state with the ongoing demands from the young people who are planning to take to the street, starting from August 1st, to demonstrate their grievances, what they call the bad governance protest. You see, Anthony, we have reached a point where we'll begin to look at these issues from unbiased standpoint. First of all, you look at the Constitution aspect of it. There is a clause in the Constitution that grants this freedom of expression. So then other analysts were also very much concerned, and some stakeholders, including the government of Nigeria, they are much concerned about what will be the potential or the possible outcome if this planned protest is going to be held.
All right, Naide is giving us a clear view as what happened in Libya and other countries. Do you think that is what we are likely to see? Why are they pushing with the issue of fear as a factor?
Anybody who is creating these kind of narratives with the intention to create fear by engaging all sort of tactics or ploy simply to undermine the constitutional right of young people to express their views. I don't think Nigeria needs that right now. There is no need to create fear. Protest is a constitutional right, but then the situation surrounding the current state of affairs in the country, we must try to create balance. Okay? I've listened to a lot of analysts and experts who try to analyze this situation, and some are actually making emphasis to the NSAS protest that actually gone very bad. And others are saying that it is government who mobilize the thugs and try to create this kind of situation where it will counter there will be a counter measures to prevent people from protesting. But then we have to look at the situation on ground now, looking at the current economic situation. What is the government prepared to do to put things in the right perspective? What is the government planning to do to make sure that
they restore the hope, because when this administration came to power, the president need hope. They promised a renewed hope. Then that renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is what Nigerian people who feel that the current hardship they are going through in the country, they need to question how much they have come with this renewed hope agenda. Now, there is a lot of expectations from the government. First of all, starting from the removal of this first subsidy. If you look at the demands of the protesters or the people who are planning for the protest, the first of their demand is to remove or restore the first subsidy, reinstate the first subsidy. All right. Now they want for it to be sold at the rate of 115 naira.
All right. Let's move to the next talking point in terms of Ezekwesili, who is saying, urging the federal government to stop spreading fear. The former Minister of Education, Obi Ezekwesili, has charged the federal government to stop using fear as a factor to dissuade the protests from coming up. Do you think technically that's what the federal government, because they've been hammering on chaos, and not as if the protesters have come out to say we're going for violence rather than peaceful protest? Do you think that's just an excuse to want to kill off the protests from occurring?
The truth of the matter is that this government expressed some level of fear and uncertainty in view of the upcoming protest as planned by the youth. That is one thing. They express some level of fear. That is why you see a lot of government officials, like the military, the police, the DSS, they have made statements publicly that there are some hidden agenda behind the protest, which is aimed at removing the government in power.
But is that true when comments like that are made, when they say, have you ever seen a protest where a government has been removed from power based on civilians just protesting? We're not talking about military coup here.
That is the point.
Is the government not going too extreme in order just to...
This is not the first time a protest is held in this country. Okay? So we have had peaceful protests in the past in Nigeria. Even though the recent EndSARS protest, to some extent, we see some level of casualties and damages.
Okay, if we look at the rollout of the different, I hope my producer will show us the different, terms rolled out in the protest. They talked about the cost of living. They talked about insecurity, the need to improve the security in the nation. They talked about the electoral process. These are issues-based protest. But the EndSARS protest was just one way. It was all about police brutality, and it was like aimed at the police, and the police technically seem to have responded with more brutality. Is there no difference between these two forms of protest?
My advice, yes, of course, the EndSARS, just like you have mentioned, is strictly on to end police brutality, extrajudicial killings and all of that, which I believe after that protest we have seen some changes in that regard. Okay, but this one tagged End Bad Government in Nigeria protest is like, what I understand is that we have reached a boiling point. As long as our life, as Nigerian people, as Nigerian citizens are concerned, this is the reality all around, and there's no need to paint it color. If you see the situation of the country as we speak, you will know that Nigerian people have only but one option other than to express their concern. And they feel that the only channel they can express their concern is to legitimately engage in a protest to draw the attention of the government to the reality on ground. If you recall, the last time Senator Ndume, the former chief whip of the Senate, made an open statement that the president, is kind of being caged.
that he doesn't see the reality on ground. That the people that he normally, come to allow to see him, his spokespersons, they don't tell him the truth. So what it means by implication is that if the president does not have the picture of the situation in the country in terms of what the people are going through, so how will he, better imagine?
But when we say that, it makes me wonder. I just say the president does not have access to listen or watch other TV stations apart from NTA, or listen to radio stations across the country. Is that what they're saying? Is it so busy that suddenly he cannot hear other media outlets to hear the voices of his people? Because I keep saying the people around him do not make him listen, making it look like he's now someone like a prisoner that cannot, because during elections we see this same person come out, engage with the people. How come suddenly he's branded by people? Suddenly he's shielded, he's allowed to be shielded by people who tell him what is happening rather than him listen to his people.
That is the point where, people who are advocating that the protest should not, be conducted in the first place, should be able to explore every possible channels to reach to the president himself, for him to come out and talk to the people. Because if, just like you said, that the president have access to the ongoing hardship, have access to the information around the current state of affairs in the country, he should have made himself available to the people. Not just relying on, because the people that you hired, like your spokesperson, the aides, they can always speak for the interest of their own job and the interest of their own masters. But it is the responsibility of the government to create a government citizen, dialogue mechanisms where you are giving the youth, particularly the youth, a forum. In America, we see during the time of the former President Barack Obama, even not just in the US, all over Africa, he pulls the young people together, he sits with them all the time, almost all the time, listening to them, talk to them like a father. Do you understand? But we're not saying such things in Nigeria, like, we're having that kind of relationship with our president, and it's kind of a thing to worry about.
All right, in case you're joining us, you're watching the desk on Global Television, and we're x-raying all the big happenings around the globe, and especially in Nigeria, where August 1st is turning out to become a very important date in the history of this great country. We'll go for a quick break. When we return from the break, we are going to hit the discuss button, as we have still a lot of talking points as regards what awaits us August 1st. Stay with us.
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
Get a shot in, squares it, into the back.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodu. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Oh, that goal! Beautiful work from the wingers!
Hello, children. Gather round, let me tell you a story. Do you know that stories have a way of captivating the minds of children, bringing fun and imagination to teach them morals? Join Sharon Ajay as she takes you to explore the thrilling and exciting world of storytelling.
I'll be sharing with you our next interesting story.
Tune in every Saturday on Global Television, time 5:30 p.m.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians. We are the Canaan because
that this country gets it right.
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Come back from the break. You're still watching, almost going to say Talk Sport. No, we're doing the desk this time around, looking at current affairs issues making the rounds. And we're still focusing on what's going to be happening in the next 24 hours, talking about national protest. Already we've got a security expert urging Nigerians to embrace peace and dialogue. That's what Austin Peacemaker Naide, a security expert and lecturer at the Nigerian Army School of Public Relations, has called on Nigerian youth to be cautious with regard to the planned national protest. That's what Austin Peacemaker is advocating. But while we went for that quick break, we got one more guest. I told you we were going to be joined by Olubenga George, an ACE journalist and also diplomatic aide, joining us in the live studios. George, you're looking set, sharp. Is this how you look when you're getting set for protest?
Thank you. We will be doing our duties tomorrow as duty demands, and then I don't know about protests. I know about capturing what is necessary for the Nigerian people.
All right, we've gotten a security expert now saying the youth should be careful. They shouldn't go into the protest, reminding Nigerians of what played out in Libya. On the flip side, Ezekwesili is also saying the federal government shouldn't use the fear factor as the front burner for trying to dissuade Nigerians from going on protests. From a peacemaker's point of view, do you think he's pushing the right narrative, or it's just those who had the closed door meeting with the president and seem to now...
Let's jump right into it. Yeah. Sorry, good evening, Nigerians. I think I would rather stick with Dr. Obi's perspective, and I talked about, for me, the reason why I would stick with that is because we have to understand where we are and what system and frame in which we operate in. So we operate in a democratic setting. It is not autocratic, it is not militocratic, it is purely democratic. The the tenet, of our governance is based on the tenet of democracy. Hence, we must see that at every angle that democracy is practiced to the latter. The excuses of the government, and all of the explanations is well understood. But I think it is also important to emphasize that the people have the right, to feel disgruntled toward the policies of government and to show it in the best possible way they can. They must remember Section 40 also, which gives Section 40 of the Nigerian 1999 Constitution as amended, that gives each individual the right to belong to any association, that promotes their interest. So the interests of the Nigerian people at the moment is that they want to showcase their displeasure with the policies of government. And as such, I do not think it should be stopped. However, I join, my own demand, with the government and all the other security agencies and everyone that stands against this, to say that whatever has to be done still has to be done, in the pursuit of peace, which means that in expressing their concerns and their displeasure with government policies, the Nigerian people must embrace peace. That means it must be done peacefully and in an orderly manner. But that it should not be done for whatever reasons, I do not agree.
All right, let's move to the next talking point. We're talking about IGP meeting with Falana and Adeborough and other activists trying to see how they can stop this. Are you worried that the Inspector General of Police, after meeting this person, seem not to have really gotten what they wanted, which is for the activists to back down? We've seen in the FCT...
I'm not even worried as much as, the post-reaction. I'm worried about the reaction itself, because we were just talking democracy just a few seconds ago. And if we are talking about democracy, the policing system, in a democratic system is the recognized security outfit, is the most revered in most democratic governments. So if in a democratic government that we seem to have, we now have a policing system with the number one trying to dissuade people from their fundamental rights, I think our democracy is now becoming questionable. And these are the things that some of us have always spoken about, that we have to question this thing called democracy. Is it really working? Is it really what we want? Is this the best way democracy can be explained? Is it the way it can be interpreted in our settings? If it is not, and obviously the answer is no, it means that there is still a whole lot to do, and that everyone that is practicing, both those at the leadership position and those at the receiving end of leadership, should begin to reconscientize themselves and refamiliarize themselves, with the basic tenets and principles of democracy, especially the government, who has the right, the fundamental right, to implement it to the letter.
All right, Farouk, let's look at the meeting of the Inspector General of Police and some other activists. Are you worried that in the FCT currently, we've seen the police and other security agencies besiege or take hold of areas, or the Eagle Square, the Unity Fountain, and some strategic places that naturally protest holds? Do you think that's another tactical way of saying don't hold the protest and saying there shouldn't be street protests? So what is a protest if the people can't come out?
Yeah, the truth is that we have seen a lot of pro-government supporters trying to put out the narratives that will discourage young people from expressing their constitutional rights. So if we see these kind of activities going on within the Federal Capital Territory, where we have seen the barricade everywhere and some roadblocks and police, of course, it's not unexpected. But the right is unwanted, just like my brother have said. Protest is constitutionally justifiable. Do you understand? And if we believe that this country is a democratic nation, that right should be respected. That is number one. Then, in other words, the security architecture we have in this country, it is now their responsibility, learning from EndSARS protests, since they are not using EndSARS as a benchmark. But then they invest this energy and these resources they are using to try to counter the protest, are using to improve their intelligence and improve their coordination to ensure that that protest is peaceful. They can do that because the government, they have the equipment, they have the apparatus, they have the strategy. So what they can do is to increase investment or increase preparedness towards ensuring that every kind of violence is mitigated in this protest. I think that should be the best, so that we create balance. They just said 10 days. We can even protect both the protesters and non-protesters alike if we're able, because you can't, single out a portion of the Constitution and mess it up simply because you have an interest. It doesn't make sense.
All right, still looking at what's playing out in terms of the protest. Let's go to the hunger protest where Asari Dokubo warns national protest organizers. The issue is that the SY Niger Delta freedom fighter Jahid Asari Dokubo has issued a stern warning to those behind the planned protest against hardship to forget about extending it to the Niger Delta. Don't you think that's an affront? So what gives him the right to decide which part of the country should? Is he becoming more powerful than the region, the government? And is this a right comment? And the fact that the security agencies, the government at the center or the executive does not find this distasteful. Is it worried?
We have to understand something. The Nigerian society is polarized. And one side are the elites that we talk about, one side are the masses. So in the masses and elitist thinking, when you look at it, for each person that speaks, you see where they speak from. Each person speaks from their social positioning. So you look at, for example, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives,
Benjamin
Kanu, speaking to the Igbo people directly, not to be involved in this activity because it is an attempt to waste their lives. And when I listened to that conversation, my question was, so if you knew, you are confirming that some people are actually trying to waste certain people's lives. And who are these people if they are? And what are you doing, to arrest the situation? A lot of questions came to mind. And it just comes to speak to the fact that, on the social divide, different people are on different ladders, on different steps of the ladder. And when you see people like Mujahid Asari Dokubo, who at one time was at loggerheads with the current administration of President Tinubu, who at the beginning of the administration said that people should come for him if Tinubu doesn't do well in office. So I believe people like this have a lot of questions to answer, and one thing we must continue to do is to be people of conscience and know that our society is now one that takes record of everything that we do. So you see the same person who have made different statements at different times. It means that there are a lot of people that just come to the public to say what suits their personal needs and not
so
what the people
it's not for national interest.
It's not for national interest. So we talk about trying to regionalize the issue of protest now. I do not think that the current protest is a regional problem. Every Nigerian is hungry, whether you're in the north, you're in the south, you're in the southeast, you're in the northeast, wherever you are, everybody is feeling the impact and impulses of hunger, of starvation, of lack of development, across our community. And I think that is what the Nigerian people are standing for. If you ask me, Tony, so is protest, I have always, and I have certain positions about protest, by the way, because of the effect, eventual effects following track record in Nigeria. But the question again is, when we go back and forth, you want to ask who actually makes protest become violent? How does it become violent? Those are the questions we should ask ourselves.
From your perspective, who makes it violent?
Well, I think you know the answer, Tony. I think Nigerians know the answer. I think everybody listening to me now knows the answer to that question. When we have protest and we have we have pro-government, we have anti-government, and all of that, and you realize that in the real sense of it, nobody is supposed to be on either side. Even the people that you call anti-government are not anti-government. They are just people who are demanding for their rights, for their response, for what nature has bestowed upon them, for what being a Nigerian citizen, being the citizen of a certain country,
basic
has bestowed upon them. Nature bestowed it. So that I demand for certain things is because I understand that governance is a franchise. So I have given my franchise to somebody who is supposed to lead me, and in return be in custody of those things and return them to me at will.
So can we say those those rallies that are more of sponsored, allegedly sponsored or compromised
I bet you must be stating the obvious. You know, in every society you also have interest. So people of different interests, depending on where they are, you know, will always come out to counter whatever is generally accepted. However, I cannot also deny the fact that even on the other side, where you have the people united by hunger, united by starvation, united by paucity of funds and all of that, you also do have elements, you know, on this other side who are using and taking advantage of, you know, the situation. So it is a game, and we must first of all take that out of our mind and focus on developing this nation called Nigeria, the giant of Africa, that has the ability and capacity, you know, to liberate Africa from starvation, from poverty, completely and permanently. Everybody has said this across the world, and we keep on going through these challenges. I thought that this is a time, you know, when our leaders will stand upright and take advantage of the situation we have. We have an edge right now, if only we have a leadership that can drive this vision to fruition. And it's really hurting my heart, you know, to find out that we keep on having these teething issues where it comes to understanding ourselves and knowing the direction we are going. By now, we should have a united vision as a nation. Nobody should be thinking in terms of their personal interest. We have gone past beyond that. We have gone beyond that, and I hope that every leader, I hope that every follower in this country will understand this and quickly unite their thoughts together to bring about the development that we want in Nigeria and liberate Africa.
All right, Farouk, just a quick one to get your take. Do you think Asare Dokubo was stating the obvious, because the Niger Delta people for years have cried of hunger, marginalization, and the other geopolitical zones of the country did not yield to their request for support? Do you think that's why he's making that statement, or he's simply allegedly has been compromised?
Somebody like Dokubo, you begin to wonder how much of peace he has created, even in Nigeria, before he can begin to speculate that the protests, otherwise you want to ask, what is the main reason why he's saying that people should not come and protest? Because from history and his record, we know he is somebody who has, you know, demonstrated some level of activism, both in the manner of protest, in the manner of fighting government, you know, try to advocate for the good of their region. So if he's a real activist and he believes in fighting oppression, and of course in these settings we're not just no longer looking at Niger Delta region, but the whole of the country. So if he is a true activist and he really wants the good of the people, I don't think he should be singling out his region not to be part of the protest, because on a longer time we are trying to recreate a new Nigeria. Because if you look at it critically and holistically, you will find out that, just like my brother said, people stand for or against the protest basically from their own interest point of view. You have seen people who are, you know, of APC origin, you know, who have, you know, some people who have benefited a lot from the government or think they're in the best position that the government favored them. Because if Mr. A is hungry and Mr. B is okay or satisfied, let's say Mr. A does not have any means of livelihood, you don't have any business, you don't have a job, all right? Definitely, you would want a change, an immediate one at that. On the other hand, if the Mr. B perhaps work with the government, you earn salaries, you have this kind of flamboyant allowances where you can travel to any country of your choice, you know, to enjoy yourself and your family, your children are going to good schools, and in addition to that, you have a couple of businesses outside the country, you have an investment, perhaps, you know, some of them that, you know, investing in real estate, you have properties all over the places. When you juxtapose this group of people, you will find out that Mr. B, of course, we don't want protests to happen because he is scared, one, from that violence aspect of it, that if this thing turns out bad, it can affect his business, it can disrupt the systems, and of course nobody wants to, you know, downgrade the status quo, right? That is one thing. But there's somebody who has no job, who, you know, his, you know, 3 square meal is not guaranteed or certain, we definitely want a change. So there's no ways you can tell him, and just like I've said before, the protest is like a medium whereby the people, although I have a friend of mine today that we are having this kind of conversation, because also you have to also listen to people. You have Nigerians who are very, very extremely intelligent. They are not nepotic in nature, they are not tribalistic in nature, dualistic, they are not violent in nature, but they just want the good of the country. When those people speak, you can also listen to them and draw some points from their own perspectives. So when I was speaking to a friend of mine shortly before I come to this studio about this thing, he made a point that the threat of the protest itself has almost, getting government to sit up. The kind of fears they expressed, the kind of concerns, the kind of, helter skelter that we see them running up and down, shows that this threat is actually working, that we can actually do something as people, to get government to chip.
So is that to say the government is admitting that they've given nothing less than bad governance?
Yeah. Well, if I'm to respond to that, well, certainly, probably not. They just felt that the Nigerian people should understand them better. But there is no explanation you can give an hungry man, a man that is hungry, a man that is unable to afford to eat. Two things have happened, in this entire stretch of the moves to this protest. And one of it that I expected government to have taken decisively as an action is the fact that you have seen opposition parties, you have seen individuals talk to Mr. President to say, Mr. President, you need to engage with the Nigerian people. Talk to them. I mean, these thoughts about protest have been on ground for a while now. So I had expected maybe a press conference, Nigeria addressing, and Mr. President addressing the nation. It's shocking to me that it is until this morning, less than 24 hours, to the protest date, when you now have the Ministry of Information have a press conference to address the nation, and then answer some of those questions, where preparations have been made, when the people have already concluded, when the routes that will be taken have already been concluded, when the people have organized themselves. It is like
medicine after death.
I mean, apply medicine after death. Thank you for that help. It's apply medicine after death. The deed has already been done. And this shows the lack of communication between government and the people. They should consistently talk to, it is their responsibility to tell the people. Now, as beautiful as I'm sorry that let me round off like this. As beautiful as these policies that the government says it is up to is, how informed, how aware of these policies are the people? That's one. Secondly, what have they done to provide a succor for the people in the interim? These are the two major issues, and that is why we are having this protest. And that is why I believe that the government should not try to oppose the protest, because the people you have not updated on the event, you cannot expect them not to form their conclusions and react accordingly.
All right, on that very stern note, we're going to call it a wrap on today's edition of the program, The Desk. I want to say a big thank you to Farouk Aka-Olisa. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Culture for Peace Foundation, and I've got Olugbenga George, ace journalist and a diplomatic aide right here, joining us to lend his voice to the many issues making the rounds in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria. My name is Anthony Momodu, saying thank you for joining me on the desk. Hopefully tomorrow, August 1st, will be on the desk to give you highlights of what is panning out in Nigeria. Good evening.